All right, thanks everyone for joining. My name is Chad Bowling. I am the broadband manager for the Wyoming Business Council. We would just wanted to have an open roundtable regarding the BEAD application phase today. Joining us today, we have Amy Meacham, Julie Park, Robert Shingle, and Mitch Herget. They are contractors for the state of Wyoming and part of our staff here assisting us through the process. But yeah, we just wanted to have an open roundtable, allow anyone that joined to be able to speak, and we can have a discussion. But if anyone does have a question, please raise your hand, and I will unmute you, and feel free to ask any questions you may have. So I'll open it up to anyone who's here today. Hey, Marty, I see you have a question. I'll go ahead and unmute you. Marty, go ahead if you can, if you're unmuted. Okay, looks like I will go ahead and move on. Brooke, can you hear us okay? And if try unmuting if that helps.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
There you go.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, I just had a quick question about the performance bond requirement. So it looks like you guys are requiring that the dollar amount of the performance bond is equal to the total project amount, not our 25% match. Is that correct? Did you guys get that? Can you hear me?
We did.
Okay.
We did, yes. The question is, the performance bond appears to match the total project amount and not the applicant match. And just the question is, can we confirm that? I'm going to do a quick look, and Amy from my team, if you know, maybe jump in, but I'm going to just do a quick look here and see.
Yeah, apologies. I'll try to get on camera in a second. But basically, yes, that is correct. There are ways that can be reduced through the life of the project through the waiver that NTIA put out, but NTIA dictated the terms of the performance bond, which was an alternative to the letter of credit. And the letter of credit, as you correctly noted, was for 25% or your match amount, basically, but the performance bond was required at 100% of the project cost. So as an alternative, that is correct. There are ways to, again, provide step down performance bond throughout the project, if that's helpful. But yes, that's basically what the requirement, and Mitch can confirm that as he's looking at the documents. But
and if we do the performance bond in place of the letter of credit, is there anything that we have to do anything, or is it just one or the other?
It's basically just one or the other during the application. What we'd like to see is that you're able to get the performance bond or the letter of credit, if that's applicable. So a letter from a surety or a financial institution that can say that that you qualify for the bond, but then you would not need that. And once sub-grantees are selected, then when during award, that's when you would actually need to provide the bond. But yes, that's it.
Perfect. Brooke, was that helpful?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, perfect. You're welcome. Marty, I'm going to come back to you. Um, try, okay, let's see. I see you unmuted. Let's see if we can hear you now. Okay.
How about that?
Oh,
there we
is that
go.
you, Marty?
New laptop. Sorry about that.
There we go. We can hear you now.
Okay, quick question on the physical addresses in a PAU. Going back and forth between what we have as now the final numbers and what the FCC has for areas, we're seeing discrepancies in the actual numbers in the PAU. Is there any modification that's going to be, or what we have is what you see regardless of the work that's been done for the 6 months prior?
So that's a great question. And I believe officially this week there'll be that email blast from WBO that covers a variety of topics. And that email blast, and we'll go into the FAQ at the same time as well, will be specific guidance on how to handle exactly what you're talking about, Marty, the work that's been done since the approval of the challenge process data in between the time the application gets going. So as we know, our challenge data was approved. That is the official list of addresses per PAU that we have to move forward with in the BEAD program. However, after our application window opened, NTIA released some additional guidance on how to account for that type of thing happening, which includes sort of something similar to the challenge process, but basically for locations that don't apply to the program for one reason or another, they're allowing applicants to submit documentation with a challenge code and evidence that identifies why that would not need to be served. So the purpose of the states reporting to NTIA, we need to show that every location is covered in some form or fashion, and that could be through that challenge means of deduplication. So we will have official guidance on that out, I believe, Friday at the latest from this group that will explain to you how to go about doing that and then how to provide that information within your application.
So from a structural or functional standpoint, if you go and you're looking at a PAU and you know that you've served 40 customers already in your normal building process, then are you anticipating, and I guess we'll wait to see it is, but are you anticipating that the total dollars for the PAU would be decreased by that number? Or are you anticipating, or even and I shouldn't hold you to this, but you can see where I'm going with this, because if there's a fixed dollar for a PAU, I drop out 40 already served areas. Now those 40 served areas are going to probably be the easiest 40 because we've already taken care of them, leaving then the farther ones out that are now more difficult to financially feed.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there. So ideally, I guess in this scenario, are you planning on serving that PIU initially anyway? Is it something you're capturing in your application? So basically how it works is when you submit your application for that PAU, you've identified that you already served 40. And so you could submit to us the 40 locations that have the challenge code that indicates that you already serve it with some evidence for us to then roll up to the NTIA. And then when you provide your cost, you could exclude the cost of that 40 from your application. Does that make sense? You're giving us a solution that covers everything, and your challenge code for the locations you're not intending to serve in your new design would be identified via that process.
Yeah, I get it, but it also then could turn a PAU from being viable to unviable as well if the cost goes down per those locations. We'll just have to
like for the
wait till to see
yeah.
what the
Yeah, for the purposes, it's none of this is going to change our benchmark pricing or scoring or anything along those lines. I guess for your own internal like business case, obviously you have to consider that. And I assume even if it's on the even if it's on the official data, right? You're busy because your boots on the ground. You know the business case you'll know is going to be for whatever's available for you to serve in your given area, I suppose. So it's not going to adjust our numbers. It may obviously adjust your internal calculations for things, but from the standpoint of the BEAD program, we're not going to reduce the benchmark or allocated pricing. We cannot or if it's successfully identified, we just can't we can't give allocation out for locations that are not viable. So if you have a number that works for you for all the locations but 40, you should submit that. We're not going to come back and take stuff out for you. We assume your proposal is saying, here's our cost to do everything excluding the 40 that we have already served. Does that make sense? We're not going to say, oh, you gave us a price, we need you to cut that money out. We want you to give us a price for what you're going to serve.
No, that makes sense. And that's helpful, because then the other concern would have been is if you go to serve that PAU and it's been determined that some areas are already served and you were going to do that, then you're looking at a fraudulent account. But if the PAU is a fixed dollars, then that solves that problem. And then it's just,
exactly,
this is what we're doing. Okay. No, that's helpful.
That's
Thank
right.
you very much.
And to that point, WBO is keeping an eye on any federal awards that are being made, or any future awards that could be made with CPF money, and we will be announcing any of that information out through that email blast as well, so people can know that there are some federally funded areas that should be assumed to be descoped in their application, or it will have to be because we can't do duplicate awards. But we are keeping an eye on any of those confirmed things, and we'll be notifying that to applicants if any of that affects the BEAD eligible locations.
Great. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thanks, Marty. What other questions does anyone else have today? Brooke? Looks like you may be muted, Brooke.
Am I muted now?
There we go. I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so I have a question on the in-kind donations. So, or the in-kind match, I guess, so to speak. So I'm going to kind of get into the application and ask kind of a specific question. So in question 2.2, no, excuse me, 2.3, they're asking us what our match amount is. Is that supposed to include both the cash match and our in-kind match? Or what is that asking for? And then that goes on to 2.3A and 2.3B, which I'm wondering if I'm supposed to split it out between cash and in-kind.
We do need it split out between cash and in-kind. And I will, and Julie, you can add on to this if need be, but NTIA is collecting certain data, and again, some of this has changed through the process, and so they would like to see total match, and then that match delineated between cash and in-kind. And so what your total project cost should include match plus the amount that you're requesting from the federal government, or from through the BEAD program through Wyoming, and then it just includes each piece of match.
Okay, so question 2.3 is the total of 2.3A and 2.3B.
Yes.
Okay. How am I supposed to quantify my in-kind match? I feel like I recall that in CPF ARPA, we could talk about like our mid-mile infrastructure that was in place prior to the grant cycle. Is any of that considered an in-kind contribution to the project?
Mitch, did you want to start?
I was hoping you would, since like
we get to always be like full of the best news when we talk. So It depends, I think is my answer, because I don't know the specifics of your situation. Match generally can only be included in one award. And so that one federal award, but so that I think it depends, and we might need some more details to understand. But certainly do the best that you can in the application. And that's something, as the process goes through, that we could also work out. If you need, so, I mean, I think the example that was used is if you need the middle mile in order to connect the last mile, which of course you do, that segment of middle mile, it makes sense to include it if you want to include it in, as part of your in-kind match. But again, I think each situation depends, and there's some details to go through individually.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let me just like rephrase that. So like if we have mid-mile infrastructure in place prior to this grant, and that mid-mile allows us to get to the locations cheaper because it's already there, that can be considered an in-kind part of our in-kind match and part of that 25%.
I think we're close to the same thing. So let me rephrase too. And that I'm not trying to hedge. I just need, I need to probably be a little bit more specific. So the way that the rules talk about match for any of these awards is that it needs to be reasonable, necessary, and allocable to the award. So not all of your middle mile would be allocable to the award. It would be the portion that you need in order to run the segments that come off of it. So I hope that makes a little more sense. So you
It
can't
does.
claim your
I think
entire middle mile, but you can claim what's
It's
out.
the ones that directly impact.
Yeah.
So under your scenario, you're saying it's
Right.
necessary in order to reduce costs to serve
Exactly.
these people. Therefore, it would
Absolutely.
be, the ones that are directly in the line of serving those. And I wonder, Amy, if this is something that we should, I know it's kind of a lot
Stick
of
to an FAQ.
nuance.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was going to say if we
I
could try to
agree. That was
solidify a little bit more in that. And
that was
so
my next.
take Amy's words with a caveat that we'll try to articulate this correctly in that FAQ document for you to move forward. But my understanding is the same as yours, Amy. I think if it is part of the project, right, or replaces a part of the project that you would have to spend money on, in that case, it does make sense. So yes.
Absolutely.
right, like my project is cheaper than it normally would be.
Yep.
Because I have this infrastructure in place that allows me to get to the PAU.
Yes.
Understood. I think Mitch is right that we probably need to clarify this in writing, but I think we're aligned in how we're thinking about this.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Brooke. What other questions do we have?
Let me just look real quick.
Chad, it looks like there's 2 questions posted in the Q&A box, if you want to take a look at that.
Oh, thank you, Robert.
Yeah, no worries. One from Brooke and one from Joe.
Yes, I think we may have, I think we already, well, Brooke just posted this. Brooke posted a question, follow up on let's go to Joe first. Joe's question is, will you be publishing a draft agreement for the application window closes?
My understanding is WBO is working through finalizing that, right? There's like a preliminary document that you guys have put together for the BEAD agreement. subgrantee agreement, but I think there just need to be some finalization. So correct me if I'm wrong, Chad, but my understanding is the expectation is that would be out before the window closes currently.
Yes. All right. And then Brooke's follow-up question, it's a follow-up on performance bonds. The NTIA documentation had two options: step down over the course of the project, or an alternative suggested 10% reduced rate for each 6-month block for that block's total. Will both be supported methods? And credit waiver 2.3 versus 2.4 in the NTIA notice of programmatic waiver.
So I think the answer is yes. When I look back at the application, and I believe it gives you the option through, I know the user guide is spelled out in a very specific way, but if you click through, you have option 2.3 or 2.3A. So you can do letter of credit, or as an alternative, do the performance bond.
Awesome. Thanks, Mitch. And thank you for all these questions. These are great questions. And don't be shy. If there's any questions, feel free to ask them. And if we have any late arrivals to the meeting, I just wanted to recap that this call is an open roundtable regarding the BEAD application phase. So we want to give anyone that joins an opportunity to ask their questions. Just raise your hand, shoot your question in the Q&A, and we're happy to discuss here. Right, looks like we have another question in the Q&A. It's, if we expect that a total project cost will be negotiated down during the post-application negotiation phase, can we use that information while working to obtain an LOC or performance bond?
So I think the answer is kind of going to be similar to what my answer was in previous conversations about scoping and descoping. Obviously, the negotiation phase happens after the application submission. In a perfect world, if we have enough money to support the entirety of the PIU, we'll put it towards that and not do any descoping. In a real world, there is potential that there will be descoping just so we can have our money go as far as possible for terrestrial solutions. With that said, I think the guidance is we want everyone to submit an application that works best for them, highlighting any sort of information that deviates from what the state is asking to make sure we capture and understand it. I think what we would like to make sure is that we get responses so that we can open the door for discussion.
Yeah.
Amy?
Can I just add on to that? I think that's great. And I may have mentioned this earlier, but during the application phase, again, as Mitch said, we get responses. We don't expect you to actually have your letter of credit or your bond in hand until there is an award, or until you are close to having an award. Then we would expect you to have that at the time of the grant agreement. And so you will have some time and you will know what the award amount will be at that time.
Yeah, all right.
At least ideally.
Yeah. Sorry, I was getting excited to jump ahead to the next question. There's another one in the Q&A, which is, what qualifies as completion on the timeline for subscriber activation? So in the timeline that we're asking for. We have various pieces, which is engineering, network deployment, which is your mainline distribution infrastructure, and the middle mile associated with getting locations connected. We also have a timeline for subscriber activations, and then there's also one for program closeout. So as subscriber activations goes, we want you to include subscriber activations that you're looking to get reimbursed by the program. So the reason we have the program closeout submission as a milestone is that's you telling us that's when you intend to be done with the program, complete your reporting, have asked for all your reimbursement. We understand that subscriber activations is a continual activity that goes on beyond the life of the program. We only want you to show what you're doing up until the end of the program. So that is your last month when you're doing your program closeout. That should indicate to us when you're looking to end your timeline for your program and reimbursement. We've seen in the past in previous CPF programs there people talk about their customer activations out for 10 years or something, and then we have to go back and forth with Curing to understand what they're talking about as far as program closeout. So we want you to show it up to what you're looking to get reimbursed on this program. We want to know the starting date, right? But we want to make sure that your timeline doesn't go beyond that program closeout submission. That is when you have ideally submitted your final reporting and you've asked for all the money you're going to ask for. That is the program close. Just have your subscriber activations in there as far as we care. That's where it should end. And the other thing that I've run into in other states is there's two data inputs you put in your timeline. The first one is the start date, so the month that from award that you intend to start it, and the second one is the duration. So if you start in month 5, you start with 5, and if you expect it to go 10 months from 5 to 15, you put 10 in the duration. What I've seen in other states is people put their duration as the close date, so i.e. their program closeout starts on 37 and they put their duration as 38, making it go well beyond the life of the program. Just know that that's not the closing month, that is the duration. So if you intend to be done with your closeout in a month, you just put 1 after the closeout.
Thanks, Mitch. These are great questions. I think we'll give it maybe another couple of minutes unless we start getting flooded with more questions.
And while we wait, Chad, I'll just remind everyone that may have joined later that there will be, post this roundtable, there'll be additional FAQ questions added to the FAQ. And I think at latest by the end of this week, some additional information will be sent out via email through that standard email blast from WBO on various things for the program. So everyone should keep their eye out for that as well.
All right. Any other questions before we head out? I don't want to rush out because I want to give everyone an opportunity to ask their questions if they have any. So please ask them.
And a reminder, this was recorded, so if you did show up late and you want to catch up on a few of the earlier questions you may or may not have missed, feel free to watch the playback so you can catch any of those. I see it's a larger turnout than at the very beginning. So.
Okay, I think we might be good to to wrap it up. But in the meantime, if anyone has any questions at all, please reach out to me and we're happy to get those answered. But we appreciate everyone here taking the time to join today. And we will talk soon. So everyone have a happy holidays. Try to stay warm if it's cold where you're at, and everyone take care. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
All
you.
right, bye.